Welcome to Make Today Count, your 20 minutes of fresh conversation served up to inform, educate and inspire an abundant life. I'm your host Ross Dean, and each episode I chat to thought leaders, influencers and experts in their game who all have one thing in common: the desire to go that extra mile, pushing against the status quo to create a richer life for both themselves and those around them, powered by compassion and driven by the need to leave the world that little bit better than when they arrived. Okay, hi guys, and welcome back to episode 2 of Make Today Count. We've got a cracking guest for you today. Gavin Damant is a performance coach with over 20 years of experience in both policing and high performance training. Gavin works with clients on both a one-to-one basis as well as in groups through hosting professional self-development courses in both his home county of Suffolk as well as across the UK. His clients range from business leaders to professional sportsmen and women to people who just want to take their lives to the next level. Gavin, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm very excited to speak to you tonight, Ross. How are you?
Really well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. It's a conversation that I wanted to kind of have in one of the first episodes because first thing, it's a kind of a friendship and a relationship we've built up over the last year or so. And I know from my point of view, it's brought me so much value and positivity. So I really wanted to share that with other people today. But what I'd really love is that, you know, if people haven't come across you before and the work that you do,
Well,
I'd love
how haven't they?
I know. How could they not?
How dare they? No.
How could they not? Yeah, just give us a little bit about your background and kind of how you got to where you are today.
I was the classic cynic. I don't know if that will resonate with any of the people listening, but I didn't believe in mental health. I thought if people had problems, they were weak. And this was me at 21, and I look back at that and it's shameful. I was a bit of a smart ass. I was at university and I was training in sports. And sometimes when you're unaware, you have the biggest learning, the biggest lesson come your way. And I had that happen to me. And what started as a kind of flu-like condition after a sinus operation in 2001 completely knocked me sideways. All the training I was doing in sports and martial arts kind of came to a stop. I was struggling to get around the house. My hopes and dreams beyond university with a police career was kind of slower on hold. I remember thinking to myself, I don't know what's gone wrong here, and I was really struggling, and saw the doctors, had these initial diagnoses, and after a few months of just having this ongoing aching flu-like problem, they started to label it. And I'm sure many of the people listening are probably aware of the power of labels in society today. And that kind of gave me a little bit of respite, but also left me feeling like I wasn't being me.
And this was just something that just came out of the blue. It just kind of came from nowhere.
So as I would have thought, and this is the thing about the power of the mind, the power of the body, emotions and energy, and what's going on around you, and also more important, what's going on within you. So I saw these doctors and they started to say, oh, you have chronic fatigue syndrome, you've got ME, post-viral fatigue syndrome. And that really didn't do much for me other than diagnose and label me. And then it was a case of battling on. And I never accepted it, and I never was going to allow this to define me, and I was going to prove them wrong. But there were times when I felt lost, I felt scared, I was tearful, and I felt like I wasn't living the fullest life I wanted to. I spoke to my family. And what really began there was a search for answers, a search for the truth, to become a resilient character and to fight on. And I'll always remember the day. At this point, I was still doing my best to teach jiu-jitsu, train when I could, but I had these periods where I felt strong, and then I would bomb out. And I don't know for you, if you ever notice when you've got loads of energy and you get loads done, and then sometimes you kind of feel crap, and you have to take a back seat on these things. And this was boom and bust for me. I was up and I was down, and I was progressing into the police, but just didn't feel like I was on all the cylinders I could be. And then everything changed. And I don't know if listeners have had a moment when something happens that's so powerful. 2008, watching the Beijing Olympics.
Okay.
I see this British kayaker, and she's won gold, and she's crying on the BBC. And she says she's had the same condition as me. 2 years ago, her career's over. And then she mentions what she's done to create the change, to get her back to her brightest, biggest self. And there was a journey that started for me, seeing a person who I thought was a witch doctor at first in Harley Street in London. And I went and saw him, still the cynic, still this is not going to work. But I started to trust in what he said. I started to follow his advice, and I realised that there was a journey to be had on the inside, and that the doctors hadn't got this right. As much as I love the NHS, they were so far off with this. And that was that moment. And then my whole life has changed since then.
And I'm guessing at that time, as well as feeling low and ill in the way that you did, I'm guessing there was lots of different people with lots of different opinions. How did you kind of navigate through that? Because I'm guessing that, when we're feeling down and ill like that, we want a kind of a fix as soon as we can. How did you kind of navigate through all those kind of voices? Was it just kind of going with your gut, or?
It was, well, that hasn't worked. This hasn't worked.
Okay, so it's basically just trying everything you could.
Yeah, honestly, I talked to this person, try this person, counselling, CBT. This is to cope with how I was feeling and with the symptoms. Take medication, and battling on. And then it was like, well, slow everything down, Gavin, and give yourself some routines, and you've got to slow everything down. And when I saw this person in London, he was like, you haven't got this. You start learning about the body, start learning about the mind, the hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis. And what happened was, he asked me some questions, and we touched on one thing, and it was to do with my dad being unwell with cancer while I was at uni.
Yeah.
And there was this massive release of energy and some tears. And what I've been doing was holding all this stuff in rather than allowing it to flow. And there onwards became this journey of, I need to listen to my body. And for so many people, they live in their heads and they don't live in their hearts, and they do not deal with how they're feeling, and they don't speak their truths. And I became this completely different person. It didn't happen overnight. It was a journey.
And would you agree as well, is that, we often just don't know that this information is available. I think we just, by default, we go down the sort of the doctor route, the medical route, the medication route, but we don't necessarily know sort of the other aspects of, the way in which the mind interacts with the rest of the body. And so I think probably from a lot of people's point of view, it's just something that's not offered to them. And, by fate or by luck or by wherever you think, you were just put into that situation, and you were fortunate enough to sort of take that pathway from there.
100%. It was, again, it's no blame or judgment here. It's just that the doctors didn't know what to do, how to deal with it. So label it, medicate, and then maybe counselling with CBT. And none of those things were effective for me, because all I needed was for someone to really get how the mind and body interacts, what happens at the level of emotion and energy, how powerful the mind is, how powerful the body is when they're not working together and when they are. And this guy opened a door for me that led to this bigger, better, bolder life. And once someone helped me, what's driven me on is I wanted to help other people because somebody helped me. And as you say, there's such little awareness out there around what's really possible, about how much you can change, about how much you can achieve, about how much of the positive emotions you can actually feel in your life. And we're in a society now where we live in our heads, and all the answers are on our phones, and we're in our heads and not in our bodies. We're not connected to if you say the word emotion in a lot of spaces, people, they panic, which is funny because that's a bit paradoxical, because that's an emotion. But emotion is energy in motion. Now, when you can tap into this, and this is happening at the high end now, everyone's very aware that in sports and in high business and UK Special Forces community, they are harnessing their energy. They are focusing on their emotions. They are looking at how you create peak states. I think we saw that in the last World Cup, didn't we? I think that the manager for the first time was using kind of mind-based mental coaching for the very first time for the England squad. Yeah,
and it was something that hadn't been sort of thought of before.
It was, one player was asked by the press being interviewed, and he said, to, I think it was Dele Alli, the England player, and it was like, well, how nervous are you about tomorrow? And it's amazing because he reframed the whole thing and turned around and went, I'm not nervous, I'm excited. Now, I know that that's semantics, but when you start to learn about the power of the mind and the body and about how you create peak states, language is a huge part, and words have what we call semantic density. You take one word and you explore that word for someone. Nervousness, excitement, really same physiological response. When you're nervous, Ross, what happens to your heart rate?
It raises.
Yeah,
You start breathing more heavily.
start
Become more.
sweating.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Muscles get a little bit tense, or you get like jelly, or you get a bit hyperactive. Voice
Mm.
changes, head position changes. Excitement's the same thing. If you take physiologically in a lot of ways, they're not identical, but in so many ways, it's the same response. One person's roller coaster ride is one person's nightmare, and so it's learning how are we labeling things, what choice are we creating, what are we focusing on, what belief have we got,
Mm.
and this whole world opened to me, and we saw it with the England team that actually could score penalties, which for
Yeah,
me as an England fan was amazing, because guess what, in watching those games and seeing those missed penalties over the years, there was heartache, emotional responses. The whole country was elated and then deflated, and
yeah,
that's the ride that we're on in life. It's learning how to harness the positives and get into those high spaces, and how we can then combat the lows and get ourselves into more powerful, effective spaces and places where you can be your best self,
yeah.
where you can move past old labels.
So after you've had that kind of light bulb moment where you sort of saw this kind of new route or this new pathway that you could go down, so what were the kind of the next steps for you? Was it just kind of researching different things? Did you seek guidance from others? What was the kind of the
I
next steps for you after that?
Part of the journey is like Steve Jobs says about, you can only join the dots looking backwards, and I can only say to my family, to you, to anyone listening, that there's a degree of, is this happening to me, or is it happening for me? Am I being guided? Because when I look back now, everything was leading from that, what could have been the lowest slow. And when you're there, you've hit rock bottom. But what an amazing place, because that's the strongest place to build foundations. And I looked back, and on that journey, I started to learn about how to use my mind. I mean, this guy said to me, "You don't need to slow down. You need to speed up. Your mind's going so fast, Gavin. You need to be involving yourself in things, but you need to be enjoying things rather than always pressurizing and pushing yourself." So I started to fall in love with doing things I enjoyed. He got me to switch my focus towards positives, towards goals, and also to be honest with myself and with other people. And I think that when people think about their lives, they are aware that sometimes they're just not being honest about this relationship or this opportunity. So for me, he got the ball rolling, and I started reading ferociously. I started meditating. I started being honest about things, and I started setting clear goals. And I was lucky enough in my police career to end up in a training team at Suffolk. And if you've ever found your tribe, if you've ever bumped into a group of people and thought to yourself, wow, I feel at home, I feel happy. I sat with these really rugged, really funny guys, but each of them had a journey. Something had happened to them in their lives, and they were getting involved in neurolinguistic programming and coaching themselves, and learning how the mind and body work. And from there onwards, I started to involve myself in so many courses. If I could learn something, I went. If I could listen to something, I listened. If I could read a book, I read it. And I just started to really practice everything that I could, and I found what worked.
I can really relate to that because I think after when you see some progress in a certain area, you just get that hunger. I think, and
Yeah, yeah.
you want to kind of learn more and sort of digest as much as you can from wherever you can. I think so. So that led you to your own personal development and enabled you to see, I guess, progress in both your health. So all the problems that you'd had prior to that, did they just kind of just deteriorate, or kind of
Yeah,
what happened?
once I started to know what it was and what it wasn't, when I learned that there were unresolved emotions in the body, and what they were doing was they needed to be expressed one way or the other. And look at physics, energy and matter, the two things that make the universe. And energy is always moving and flowing, or it's getting stuck. And without sounding too esoteric or too out there, he had noticed in me that I wasn't dealing with how I was feeling, and my body started talking to me. When I ignored the emotions, it gave me pain, and it gave me so much
Mm.
pain that this autonomic nervous system, this HPA axis, it was firing off. So I was running like a low level of stress or worry. My body was exhausted. Now, when you start releasing it, I started to feel elated. I had the privilege of having you at my wedding, and you were taking photographs, and I requested the very last song to be "Hey Jude" by the Beatles,
Mm-hmm.
because 2019, everyone, my family, my friends, were all singing this song out of our lungs, and it was the most amazing moment. But back in 2008, I actually realised I was free of this illness. The symptoms had died down and passed. I learnt that I needed to do the positive things every day, because whatever you focus on, you get more of. So I started to rehearse the learning, rehearse the growing, getting myself in things that made me feel good. It's not selfish, Ross. It's not selfish at all to do what makes you happy and to do the things that work for you every day. What is selfish is expecting that of other people.
Yeah.
Because you've got one life and life is so short, why would you not commit to daily self mastery?
Mm.
Why would you not feed the mind, feed the body, and feed the soul? And so back in 2008, when I knew in my bones that I didn't have that label and I was well, I found myself singing to the top of my lungs Hey Jude by the Beatles. And it was a moment of the purest joy. I'd never felt that happy in my life. And then when it came to choosing music for the wedding, there was only one option. I was going to sing Hey Jude. And from 11 years, from that moment of change to 2019, my whole life was transformed. I do more at 41 than I did at 21 and 31.
Yeah.
I am so grateful for watching the Beijing Olympics that morning because, as you say, whatever it was that led to that moment, fate, the universe, synchronicity, sheer luck, that was a moment of change. And if people look in their lives, they will spot those moments.
I think music is great for that as well. I think we can all remember back to times in our lives, whether it's through teenage years, through when you have children, all that kind of stuff, where you can pick out key pieces of music that kind of have a narrative to them, have a story to them, where you can really sort of pin some emotions down to them. And it kind of leads me a little way into what I want to speak to today about kind of state and the importance of state. And I think for anyone that's kind of gone into the rabbit hole of self-development, personal development, state is something that often comes up, whether you're listening to Tony Robbins or any other kind of thought leader. State, this kind of comes up a lot. And so if anyone hasn't kind of heard of what that means to be in the right state, can you just give a little bit of background of kind of what that means?
Yeah, 100%. It's as simple as this. Everybody is aware, if they don't understand the terminology, everyone is aware of when they're not in the right state because they find themselves in a right state.
Yeah.
And if they're not aware of their emotions, what they will be aware of is their behaviors. So when you're in a right state, maybe you're feeling like you're procrastinating, you're not getting jobs done, you're not venturing out of the house, you're not saying yes to things, you may be putting things off that are important to you professionally or personally, you're not saying yes to opportunity to speak to people because something's going on. If you are more tuned into what's going on, you're probably really aware, and most people are, that maybe they're feeling some negative emotions, maybe they're worried about something, maybe they're feeling a bit fearful, maybe they're a bit just angry or pissed off. But they're in a right state, and that's not serving at the level of thinking or at the level of their energy or at the level of way that their brain actually works, because cortisol, the hormone, will be up, so they're in stress, which means dopamine, the creative hormone, is down. And I can think back to many times when I've been in a right state, and when you get into the right state, that's the place where you can perform. That's you feeling confident. That's you feeling relaxed. That's when things are in flow. And flow is when everything's just happening for you, with you, and around you. Conversations are effortless. You connect to people. You say yes to things and you get stuff done because progress is happiness. We love achieving things. We love setting goals, and we love just taking, even if it's an inch, if you can move forward just 1 inch in your life per day, you start to achieve things. So if anyone listening, they will be aware of being in a right state because they've been there, feeling sad, feeling angry, feeling pissed off, not getting stuff done, saying no to things, not committing to stuff, backing out of things. I mean, everyone can probably think of one time they started something they didn't finish, or they said yes to something they didn't really want to do. And you're in a right state. The more time we can spend in the right state, the more we're connecting to our best self, the more we can challenge and excite ourselves, the more things we can achieve in life. Because look, however you play this game, Ross, you're not getting out of here alive. No matter what you do,
Yeah.
you're not getting. You can't. There's no clever move that keeps. This is a game. You might as well be on the pitch rather than in the dugout. So you might as well get on that pitch and play. But to play, you've got to be in the right state. So this just take business, right? People or take health. There are three things that hold someone back, and it'll be the strategy, the story, or the state. But let's take someone who smokes. They know that smoking is harmful to them, but they do it, which means it's not the strategy. They know the right strategy. Someone might know in business, what I need to do is I need to go to network events and I need to meet people to find clients, or I need to get my invoices done so I can get paid.
Yeah.
So they know what to do, but they find themselves not doing it. So what we look at really is the story. Who are they deciding they are? What are they telling themselves? Now, when you realize you're having 60 to 90,000 thoughts a day, most of which are running unconsciously, so they're just in the background, those stories are running in there. You start changing your stories, you start changing to a more compelling story, you start not believing the old narrative that might not even be yours, then you get results. But what we find ultimately is before that can happen, we need to change your state. Now, if you are feeling excited, if you are feeling confident, if you're feeling calm, if you're feeling energized, if you're feeling love in your heart, what wouldn't you do? What wouldn't you do in those states? And so life is defined by state, because when you think about it all day long, you're moving from state to state. Maybe feeling tired, maybe feeling low, maybe feeling proud. It's a journey throughout the day.
And I think also it's kind of it can be a sort of a snowball effect in that when you're feeling in that kind of state, it can affect the language that you use. And so it would promote more of a negative viewpoint, and you'd speak in negative types of language. The other knock-on effects of how you'd act around others, and often, although if someone's been in that situation for a while, they may not identify that they're in a state. It's usually maybe the people around them who they spend most time with.
What's going on with you, Ross? What's going on there, darling? You get other people will spot. That's a massive part of what we do in coaching, is raising your awareness. I coached a lady recently. Can't say who she is, but she's a massive person in business, and she's flying high sometimes with her business, but then she comes home and she says to me her house is like a bomb's hit it. And I start talking to her about that, and she finds herself procrastinating around the house, and she knows that actually that's interfering with her business, because she said to everyone else that how you are at home is going to affect how you are at business. So I start laughing, saying, have you taken your own medicine? Are you walking your own talk? She had this kind of like red-faced laugh, and we started to work through it. And actually what was going on was every time she even thought about tidying up, she actually felt like, oh, can't be bothered. And I don't know if that resonates with anyone else. And she felt a little bit like overwhelmed. There was so much to do around the house that she just left it. Her house apparently looked like one of those programs where people hoard stuff. So I did a little technique with her, interrupt the pattern, and we did a little technique around the emotion that was there, that was about sadness. And then got a message from her the next day. Apparently she was like a whirling dervish. This Dyson had never seen so much action. There was stuff stuff going to charity, stuff in the recycling, the house. She worked room by room. She sent me pictures of each room. But the important point is that, as you say, if you're in a right state, other people notice it. Now think about it. If you're in a team, the players will notice it. If you're in business, your colleagues, people you supervise, or your manager might notice it. And when you go home, let's be honest, the loved ones, they know you really well, and you can have a child. I've seen my nephew come in, and I say, "You're right, Jack," and he goes, "Yeah," and I can tell immediately that he's not in the right state. He's in a right state. So sometimes it's important to listen to other people who may notice things about you, but equally, what if they're in a right state? I mean, I don't know about you, Ross. Have you ever kept asking someone if they're okay, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm fine." "Yeah, I'm fine." "Are you really okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine." "Are you really okay?" "Yeah, I was fine, but now you keep asking me. Now I'm not sure if I am." And what I've learned is if I start to ask anyone I love if they're okay more than once, maybe I need to have a little look on the inside at how I am that day. Maybe I need to have a little think about, how am I doing? Because we project our perception into our world. So, you've probably met people who they always find a reason to be angry. They always find a reason to be anxious because they're looking for it on the inside. Therefore, they project it on the outside.
Definitely. Yeah, I was listening to a conversation, an interview yesterday, whereby they were saying that you're almost getting annoyed. You're not getting annoyed with the person that's in front of you. You're getting annoyed with the person that you're creating inside your own head. If that makes sense. So it's not their fault because they're in that moment there and now, trying to help. But it's the picture that you create of someone.
Think about that. I was going to say to you, what a radical idea. What if the listeners would learn today, whenever they listen to this, that they're creating those pictures inside their mind? They could take the thing you've shared there would be gold dust. That you're seeing beyond you, ahead of you, outside of you, those pictures are actually being created inside your brain. Your eyes are not cameras, Ross. So it's a representation on the inside of what you believe you're seeing on the outside.
No. For someone that's kind of, maybe they're listening to this conversation and they haven't kind of experienced these kind of thoughts or these kind of ideas, I'm guessing you work with quite a lot of people like that who come to you kind of without any sort of experience in this, and I'm guessing it comes with some resistance. And does it become a little bit of a tussle because in some ways they want to improve, that they've obviously come to you for a reason and they want to progress and to enhance their life, but then also there's that kind of other voice that they've got saying, what's he really going on about? Does it take longer for some people than others, or how do you kind of find it when you work with clients?
Well, there's more one way to skin a cat. And if in business and in life and with coaching, if you're really present with someone and you're really listening and you're really connecting to them, you will notice what you need to notice to find out what's going on for them and how you can really best help them. Again, it's about you projecting your perception. If you take you out of the equation and really start listening to someone, not hearing them, but really listening, they'll give you all the information you need to know to help them. Chances are when people come to see me, they've reached a point where they're deciding to themselves, I'm going to see Gavin because I want to absolutely knock this speech out of the park, or I want to go for promotion, or I want to be more confident in business, or they're really struggling with something. Now, when they come to see me, I listen and I keep listening, and I explain this stuff in the simplest possible terms because that's what's most effective. All they need to know is that they've got this system, this most amazing body and mind, 37 trillion cells that create who you are. You use your senses to make sense of the world, what you see, hear, feel, and so on. And we make pictures, sounds, and feelings on the inside. And we're running all the information that comes in against this big filtering system, a database of all our memories, our values, our beliefs, our history, what's important to us, who we are at the level of our identity. And so as information comes in, we create these pictures and stories on the inside, and they drive our behavior, which is why for one person a spider can be a pet, and for another person a spider can be something that makes them run out of the house. Because it's the story on the inside connected to the image they're creating on with inside their skull. Think about it. People are creating everything with inside themselves. I mean, it's an amazing thought, because what happens then is when I speak to the clients, they learn probably for the first time they're in charge of all of this. They're actually in charge of how they feel. They can change their thinking. So when you say about, so I was going to say, when you say about resistance, Ross, it's a really important point. The resistance is there because of habit. If you've spent 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, 40 years worrying, you've got a motorway to worry. And I'm offering you an opportunity to create something that's the opposite, and it's like a dirt track. And so it's so easy to do the old pattern, but can they do the new one? And the answer is always yes. But it's about, have they got a big enough reason why? So when I speak to people, I ask the questions and I listen. We find out, why do they want to change? How important is it for them to change? And really, if I'm honest, we then just get involved in creating that neurological change, that transformative change that gets the results that leads them into new spaces. And the simplest way of describing this is when they see me or my business partner Wendy or any of the other guys in the team, it's like going to the optometrist. You start to see the world through new eyes. It's like you get the muck out of your eyes, you can see your way down the highway of life, rather than looking over your shoulder at the fires you lit in the past that you can see in the rearview mirror.
And I think also as well, I think people forget this a lot of the time, is that the fact that you are in that position, either sitting with you in a room or sitting with someone else in a room, that you've identified that is such a gift. There are, I imagine there's millions and millions of people that don't have that kind of epiphany. Either they don't get to that challenging space where they need to change, and they just meander through life, not having that opportunity, so where I think with a lot of people come into that situation thinking, oh my God, I can't progress, I can't make this better, but in fact it's an opportunity. And
totally listen to what you said, and there's the language. If they're saying to themselves they can't, well, with every word is a command. They're telling themselves that they can't. What's the instruction they're giving their body? And so start to listen to the language. I mean, to take a really clear look at this, how big this issue is, according to, this is not according to me, this is according to the World Health Organization. Just take anxiety and depression. It's now the number one disability on the planet. 300 million people with some form of diagnosis around those conditions. Something has gone radically wrong at the way that humans are interacting within their environment and within themselves. And we've been brought up into a society conditioned to live in the mind, live in the head, think, and not connect down into the body to feel the body. I mean, one of my friends coaches some people at Google, and sometimes one of the first things he has to do is just to get people moving their fingers and toes and realize they've got a body below their brain because they're so disconnected. That I coached a stockbroker recently, and try this on, Ross, right? I said to him, just tell me about, because we were having a laugh and changing all kinds of things, but I just said to him, what connects you to your wife? He goes, I don't know what you mean. I said, well, how are things? He says, good. I said, what's the emotion that even connects you? Oh, things are good. You couldn't get past the word good. And I said to him, if somebody else was in the relationship you had, how would they be feeling? Oh, they'd be in love. Oh, they'd love their wife. She's the best thing ever. They'd be so happy when they got home. And I was like, that's interesting, because you've just told me another person would be feeling those feelings. What about you? And this is a guy that highly effective in the City of London, spent so much time up inside his head with numbers. He'd never come down into his body and realised that these driving emotions were so powerful, which is one of the reasons why he was seeing me. And literally 2 sessions later, and he messaged me just to say, my wife needs you to know that you helped to save our marriage. I turned around and went, no, because now you're giving the power away again. I said, he has learned what he needs to learn to use his system differently to get different results. And she said, well, whatever it is worked. And for me, we're doing this to help people help themselves.
I think from experience and sort of the conversations we've had before, it's all about being proactive instead of reactive. It's about taking charge of your day every day to enable you to perform at the best level that you can. And we all know that, you know, stuff happens and, you know, life does what it needs to, and there are changes. But I found that if you're able to put yourself in that situation where you're more robust, you then have almost that kind of mental muscle to then maneuver more fluidly through those challenges that day-to-day sort of things bring.
Absolutely. With that one, Ross, you're nailing on the head. I said to someone recently on a training course, life, it can be heaven or it can be hell. The choice is yours. Which choice are you going to make? I said, it's design or drift. You can design your life or you can drift through life. I think it was John Lennon who said, life happens while you're making other plans.
Yeah.
But we offer people the opportunity to create a plan, which they flex with, about those daily rituals or habits that create changes neurologically in their thinking, in their emotions, in their energy levels, in their diet. As you said, learning how to flex, yes, the physical muscles through exercise or training, but flex the emotional, mental muscles. So you are more robust, you are more resilient, you are more adaptable. Remember, life is a race, and there are opportunities out there ahead of you, and it's up to you to pick up the baton and get yourself moving.
Definitely. And I think, as you said before, you know, with our state, it's made up of a lot of different facets that kind of contribute. What would you say are sort of some of the things that, in your experience, people have kind of changed about their day or their sort of daily habits to kind of get them into a more of a kind of a positive state? What are the sort of things key areas to kind of think about?
I would say that's a great question, and I think that's a great question for your listeners to ask themselves. I've recently won a training at a conference, and this guy had got his routine in the morning pretty good, but then he wondered why he couldn't get to sleep at night. And so I said, well, how do you tail the day? How do you bring it down at the end? And he's like, well, and he just started laughing. He looked at me and he went, oh, Gav, I can't bullshit you. I'm on social media, I'm on the news, blue screen, and then I put the phone down, and all I'm thinking about is everything I've just read, the disasters around the world, comparing myself to all the people I know that are on holiday and I'm not. And I wonder why I'm laying there till 2 o'clock in the morning. And I said, absolutely. Plus, the blue light affects the whole melatonin, serotonin. So for him, it was about just letting go and relaxing and sort of bringing himself into land gracefully for sleep, because again, chronic problems around sleep are reported by GPs everywhere. So I was chatting to him, and it got me thinking that when I work with clients and when we share these ideas, how you start your day and how you finish your day are crucial, because without going too deep on this, when you're asleep, you're unconscious. When you
Yeah.
wake, you're into consciousness. When you go to sleep, it's the other way round. Now, there's a space there that whatever you implant, whatever you imprint, whatever you suggest can be most powerful. Let's be honest, Ross. How many times have you woken up and immediately noticed your thinking kick into action around what you haven't done, what you need to do, what you're worried about, or
Yeah, of
even
course.
what you're excited about? I mean, I can remember being a kid at Christmas, right? And I laid in bed Christmas Eve night, and I couldn't get to sleep. I kept thinking about presents and Santa and family, and I'd like
Yeah.
look over the side of the bed, presents aren't there. I probably drifted for about 30 minutes, then they were there. And so our thinking is huge, and it's affecting the body in the same way the body affects the thinking. So if I was going to offer things to people, it would be, have a look at how you start your day. What are you putting in there? For one person I worked with, they just said that they immediately started checking their emails about the problems they had with their clients, and they whacked the news on. So hooray, now I can see the tornado
Yeah.
that's destroyed somewhere, or the disease that's killed millions. Now that's not about burying your head in the sand, but ask yourself the question: if you are going to surround yourself in all the horrors of the world and all the problems of other people,
Mm.
if you can't make 10 minutes for you, 5 minutes for you, half an hour for you, are you even living a life?
Mm.
Are you just existing? I work with high performing people, and they make time because they want to be in the right state, because they want to enjoy their day. They want to connect to their loved ones. They want to feel confident when they go into business situations. You make a decision, you take the island, you burn your boats, and you're there and you go for it. So when I work with people, it's like, how are you going to start your day? And we just take them through some very simple principles that get you in the right state.
I think that's, yeah. I mean, especially when you talk about talk about the news and all that kind of stuff. To be honest, if we needed to know information somehow, that would get to us. You know,
Of course.
we don't have to keep our eyes on the news or the feeds of social media. If there's something that's super important, they would find a way to let us know. But it's just the norm, isn't it? The days gone by, the way that we got news was something that was chucked into your letterbox, so it was there. It's just a different method of
Remember remember the days when you used to have news bulletins? So you just thought,
yeah,
well, 10 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, 6 o'clock in the morning, and you'd find out. I mean, I see people sometimes in police environments, and they're watching the BBC News roll round and round and round with a ticker tape, just drawn into this story of despair or agony. Think about what that's doing for you on the inside. Now,
mm,
I worked with somebody, and they just said, nah, it's okay. I see that. It doesn't have any impact. I can I can only speak from my map of reality and only from my experience as a coach and as a trainer, but having worked with hundreds of clients, having coached and trained over thousands of hours, and my own journey about what am I tipping in. If you imagine your mind is a factory, if you're tipping negative stuff into that factory, what's going to come out on the conveyor belt?
yeah,
You start putting positive stuff in, what's going to come out of it?
I know,
Everything we see, we try on. That's the way mirror neurons work. So that's how children learn, just by watching. You have to try it on inside. So
mm,
if you see terrible things, on some level, I mean, Ross, have you ever watched a horror movie?
of course, yeah, love them.
Yeah, have you ever watched a horror movie, especially when you were young, and then was scared to like leave the cinema, go to sleep, walk around the
Yeah,
house on your own?
of course, yeah,
Because what you experienced that's why the horror movies where you don't see the monster or the villain,
mm, mm,
that's why because you created that on the inside. You've just now made this most scary thing inside your mind.
yeah,
That's the power of just suggesting stuff. So, and that's going on all day long. There's no filter for this. It's always going in. You get to make a decision consciously, and therefore change the unconscious
yeah.
around what you're focusing on. What are you feeding the system? What are you putting into the factory?
I think it would be helpful for the listeners to give you some sort of insights around sort of my own personal experiences and what I've found helpful on kind of this subject, and obviously through conversations with yourself and sort of work that we've done together. Some of the key things that I've found that really help are some kind of movement. For me, it's in the morning. So when you get out of bed, I know we've spoken before about those first kind of 20 minutes, are the most important once you get up, because they kind of set the course for your day. So for me, it's some sort of movement, and then meditation of some description as well. It could be a meditation that relaxes, or if there's something particular I want to do that day where I need to kind of rally the troops up, it could be it could be something that's a bit more kind of lively, and then throughout the day it's kind of fueling your body with nutrition. I think that's something that people forget about as well, and sort of how that plays into it. Like what you said before, you put rubbish in, you put rubbish out, and then towards the end of the day, just having that downtime. Maybe you choose to have some kind of meditation. I know for a lot of people, a warm bath or something like that. I'm more of a shower person, so warm bath don't really, not really into that. But then also, I think something we haven't mentioned is the use of gratitude, and
100%.
how important that is. And I think gratitude may be, again, something people might have not have kind of touched upon. They know the word, but what do we mean by gratitude, and how have you found that it helps the people that you work with?
Well, I honestly, now let's be very clear here. If someone's experienced trauma, if someone's overwhelmed by stuff that's happened, that's precisely for sitting them in a coaching space so they can release that, take the learning, and truly let that go. And that's the power of the coaching. But even so, whatever you rehearse, you get more of. So the reason that people struggle is because, say they're going for an interview, and they worry about how badly the interview is going to go. What if they don't like me? And what if I don't have answers? And what if I don't come across well? What if I don't tell the right stories or whatever? And as they mentally rehearse this again and again and again, guess what happens? Their state crashes. They go into a right state. They don't sleep very well. They don't eat very well. And then they arrive at the interview and they don't perform. And then they say, see, I couldn't do it. It wasn't for me. So the self-fulfilling prophecy has happened for them. And I coach people and we interrupt that straight away. So when you go into the opposite, you can't feel gratitude and worry. You can't feel gratitude and be angry. Gratitude is the gateway to then the more powerful positive emotions like happiness, like pride, peace, joy, or love. But gratitude is the fix, is the break, is the stop. If you start to bring gratitude in, so you said there about your daily routine, and that's fantastic. Even on my busiest days, again, like yourself, get up, get the body moving, get the energy flowing. Even if you do some press ups, some star jumps, some squats, whatever, get the body moving, get the body pumping. If you've got time, you go for a beautiful walk, because we know there's so much stuff out there now that immersing yourself in nature, you can't be in the woods by the sea or the mountains and not feel connected and not feel relaxed. This is why we go on holidays, to go out there and connect to nature and to let everything go. It allows you to really be present. Being present is key. So whether you do gratitude, meditation, breathing, it's an opportunity for you to feed the factory with positive stuff. Gratitude means focusing on something, no matter how big or small. So it hasn't got to be, wow, I got promoted, wow, I won the race, wow, I found the partner of my dreams. Anything, big or small, that you could be grateful for. Anything you could be grateful for. Could it be that warm cup of tea in the morning? Could it be the sunshine that you just watched? Could it be the bird in the garden that's happily bouncing about? Could it be that your child gives you a hug? Could it be that fun conversation you had with your friend? Could it be a romantic meal out with a partner? Could it be a movie that made you... I mean, I watched Long Shot the other day with Jess, and I was laughing and laughing. I started crying with laughter. I was missed about a minute of the movie. And when I did the gratitude diary the next day, I thought I was in such a state of like having fun and enjoying the film and feeling the love, because I was sitting with my wife, who you know, and it was when you're in that state. So I was reliving it. I was rehearsing it. I'd gone back in and I played that memory out, and I got to connect to those feelings. Now, if you think about negativity or positivity bias in the mind, the more people can tip themselves into a positive space, well, that has a massive impact on the chemicals flowing through their body and also on how they see their day. Now, the more you rehearse the positives, the more you rehearse the things you're grateful for, the more you start to look for them. Because without going into too much detail, there's a part of your brain that searches the things that are key to your survival. Back in the day, things chased us because they thought we were food, or we chased things because we thought they were our food. It's still there, Ross. We are hardwired for survival. If you want anything more than survival from this amazing body, you've got to put more in. You've got to teach it. Like I said to you earlier, people have got through habits, through not knowing this stuff, and it's no one's fault. We've got this motorway to worry and a dirt track to happiness. So when you start to do the gratitude diary, when you start to reflect and replay on those moments that you could be grateful for, no matter how big or small, replay them in your mind. And what's really powerful is to write them out and to write what the feeling was connected to it. If you write those down, what we start to do is we start to build that dirt track into like an A road. We start to give it lights, and tarmac starts to get used more. And what actually happens in the brain is that as they say with neural pathways, the parts that fire together wire together. So the more we do it, the more power, the quicker that can flow through there. So you've got your synapses, you've got your neurons. Now, actually, by doing this regularly, you start to change the structure of your brain. This is not wishy-washy pseudoscience. This is a fact. The more you do these things, the more you build this stuff. You build that emotional, mental muscle. I mean, there's loads of MRI scans and stuff done on CAT scans where through meditation alone, they can see parts of the brain change.
Yeah.
Only small, but imagine what's going on within those areas at the level of circuitry. So the more we do the gratitude, or the more we fire those parts, the more they wire together. Soon that dirt track is now becoming this powerful, well-used, well-driven motorway. And that old one, that crappy old one about worry or whatever it is, starts to crumble, starts to get less used, doesn't look inviting. And people start to notice that they default to the new habit. So they start to feel grateful. I mean, I know now, I go running sometimes, and I'm in the flow, in the right state, and I notice stuff I never used to notice. I'm admiring the sky and the sun, and I'm saying hello to people if I can, if I'm not killing myself. I say hello to people when I'm running, and I actually feel present. The reason people struggle is because they're either in the past, negatives, they're in the future. They're either in the past or in the future. When you're doing gratitude, you are bringing positive emotions into the now. You're feeling them now because there only is the now, but we live in our minds in the past or the future. Gratitude diary brings you into the present and gets you to rehearse the positives so you feel good as you do it, and you're actually changing the way your body works. And I could go on about this for ever and a day. I'll stop there. I can say to you now, my little niece, bless her, she had her SATs, and you've got children, so you're aware of what this can be like now with children, and that's why me and Wendy are doing talks on this stuff in schools. And she was proper worried. I did one of the techniques that you've learnt yourself that you use, the old 5 questions routine. And I sat with her on a Sunday night, and she was like, Uncle Gavin, I'm just really worried. And I was like, oh my God, I've got to help her. She's my family. You know, I'm always helping people because I want to. So I sat with her, did the technique, got rid of the worry. Brilliant. But now I want her to start rehearsing the positives. So all I did was I gave her one breathing technique to do, get her into her body, to get her to slow everything down, because again, that'll change the chemicals in the body, that'll change the hormonal levels, that'll bring her back into the present, bring her back into her body, where we feel stuff and where we can really get the juices flowing, get the power, get the energy up. And I gave her the gratitude diary. Just 3 things, Phoebe. Just want every night just to write 3 things down you're grateful for. She said, well, like when I had roast dinner with Nanny and Granddad, I was really happy. I said, brilliant, that's perfect. And you've helped me today, and now I'm feeling really, really relaxed because we've got rid of this. I said, relaxed, perfect. I spoke to my sister, her mum, and she looked at me and she said, we've got the old Phoebe back. She's not been herself for a while, and she's now confident. She's out playing with the neighbours' girls and doing all the things she was doing before this picked up. So for those listening, you can make these small changes, just these small incremental changes, day on day. I mean, for me, one of my clients changed all the crap that was holding them back, was flying 10 out of 10. I told them or suggested to them, do these things every day that you've been practicing. They said, yeah, 100%. About 6 months later, I had a phone call. hey Gav, look, things have changed. I'm still that old crap is gone. I feel good about that, but I'm just not feeling the energy I had. I'm not feeling pumped up anymore. I said, right, talk to me about your day. And then they started laughing. Oh yeah, I've not been doing those things we said I should do.
Okay.
I said, fantastic learning. I said, so what are you going to start doing? They said, get back on the gratitude diary, get back on the exercise. I had a message from them a week later, flying high, 10 out of 10. And they said this was a great learning. Now they know the power of the gratitude diary because they stopped doing it and then they didn't feel the same anymore.
You need to go to the mind gym as well as the physical gym.
Yeah, 100%. 4 pillars of resilience, Ross. 4 pillars of resilience: sleep, mind gym, nutrition, and physical activity. The mind gym is a journey on the inside. It's building yourself on the inside. Great African proverb: if there's no enemy within, then there's no enemy without that can harm you. So build that mental, emotional muscle by getting in the mind gym, whether you're breathing, whether you're meditating, whether you're doing gratitude.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's changed my life. I mean, I can't believe some of the things that I've put out there that I imagined and focused on. I convinced Jess very early in our relationship that I was gonna plant an oak tree. She was like, "Okay, this sounds crazy, but I love it. It's a bit weird." I said, "I'm going to plant an oak tree so that beyond our lives, we'll leave this tree for the next people, and this would be this thing that I want to do that I just really cared about." And the short version of the story, as you know, is the perfect house came up in this beautiful place where we live. And Jess contacted me and she said, I'm looking at the house right now, they're building it. We don't need to plant an oak tree because the one house we want, the right design, has got a protected oak tree in the garden and it's been there 200 years and we couldn't cut the thing down if we wanted to. So I was like, that's our house. That's our house. And it happened. I mean, people say getting a house is the hardest thing in the world. I found getting this house to be dead easy. Getting BT to connect us to the grid, that was a completely different story. That took months. But the house, the oak tree, is so easy.
Perfect. Gavin, this podcast is called Make Today Count. And what I'd love is for, after each of these episodes, if this conversation resonates with someone and they want to start making some positive change based on the conversation, what would be kind of one easy kind of small step? You've spoken about small steps in this conversation today. What would be something that is kind of a nice quick win to kind of get you into the space where you can start to make more progress?
Don't hit snooze. Look, it's when the alarm clock goes off. It's not an alarm clock. Listen to the word. Remember I said semantics. Alarm. What is that? Fire. War. There's a bomber coming in, right? No. It's not an alarm clock. It's an opportunity clock. Because if that's gone off that next morning, guess what? You didn't leave your body overnight. You've got another day on planet Earth to put a dent into the planet and to be with your family, to really go out there and make a difference. So when the opportunity clock goes off, there's no snooze. I would say to you, this is so powerful because the moment you wake, I coached someone and they said to me, the alarm clock went off and I was feeling really positive and I just laid there and then I just, felt really crap. And then I got up and I was like, what are you doing? I said, as soon as the alarm clock goes, as soon as that opportunity clock goes, as soon as you start to hear that electronic rooster in your room, straight out of bed, immediately, and whether you clap your hands, whether you tell yourself it's going to be a beautiful day, whatever you need to do, interrupt the pan and start doing something that's going to change you that day. No snooze, up. And if I could suggest one thing, do that 5 minutes of exercise, whether it be, or if you've got time, walk the dog, go for the run, get on the bike, and I'm happy if people want to contact me or yourself or whoever, get into a space in the house where you can do some breathing or some meditation. Straight up, no snooze, and take life on and make it happen. No snooze. Pick the one thing you want to do. Exercise, meditation, breathing. Write down 5 things you're grateful for from the day before and notice how you feel as you do it. Or set out your ideal day and all the things you're going to enjoy ahead of time. Because remember, there's only the now, but we're always playing out the past or the future inside our minds. So rather than have the default to the negative, start to, on purpose by design, start feeding in the positives. So, if you can bring in the positives right at the beginning of the day, because snooze means you're missing out on life.
I know.
How many
I've
times have you hit snooze? How many times did I used to do it? You're like, what am
I
I
know.
doing? Even if I feel absolutely shattered now, Ross, even if for whatever
Mm.
reason Jess snores all night, if she ever hears this, she's gonna go mad. So when she snores all night, as soon as the alarm clock goes, I mean, today I was up at 5:30, Ross,
Yeah.
and I, my other role in firearms policing, which I'll be leaving very soon, um, I was up at 5:30 and I was out for a walk, because why wouldn't I be?
Mm.
To get out there on the woods and the heathland here, and to get out there and breathe the fresh air in. And what's interesting is the mind is thinking of all the and it's not my mind, it's the mind. It's thinking of all the excuses and all the thinking patterns it wants to run from the past. There is power in action. I got myself up. No, I'm not listening to you. I'm not listening to those thoughts. You can just go away. Got myself dressed, and I'd hardly opened my eyes, and I was out the door. And as soon as I started to breathe in the fresh air and get my body moving and take in the sunshine and the rain and the trees, I felt connected to that space out there. It's amazing to be out and to be in the world. But nothing can, it's not thinking, it's action. You've got to do it. You've got to get out there and live it. So I came in from the walk and straight into meditating. This is stuff I'm doing before most people are up. So I'm not missing out on anything. I'm just getting myself in the right state. I'm getting the right hormones pumping. I'm getting that brain wiring and firing the way I want it to. So interrupt your pattern, guys. Start doing something different, because otherwise all you're doing is you're living from memory. You have the same routine, sitting in the same seat, drinking the same drinks, watching the same programs. You'll get nothing more out of life unless you put more in.
I think this is something that we could talk at length for. So I think we need a part 2 at some point, because
Also, I only say this stuff because it's helped so many people,
yeah,
including you and I. And by the way, I have rights to brag about this because most of the stuff's not mine, mate. I've just done the research, the reading, and then I've practiced it, I've embodied it, I've lived it, and I'm eternally grateful for everyone who's helped me and for all the love I've shown. And this is the reason I do what I do. And I see it in other people now. It's amazing to watch people grow and to change. It's an absolute privilege.
Just before we wrap things up, I just want to give my own gratitude. Just wanted to thank you for everything that you've kind of given me in our friendship over the past couple of years, and thank you from everyone that you work with day in, day out. You know, I can see by the people that you surround yourself with that they're also grateful, and I think also you learn from them in so many different ways as well. And I think we forget that, you know. Sometimes it's a two-way process. So I just want to thank you on behalf of everyone that you help and all the lives that you're changing. Ross, keep on keeping on.
Ross, that's really touching, mate. That's really I feel on the love there, mate. I'm wearing that one. I'd say to you that people help me as much as I help them. You sit with people, and you help people to let go of the past, to bring in the happiness, to bring in pride, to bring in love, to bring in more confidence, and then you see them go and achieve. I get more from that than I'll ever get from my clients or from the people I choose to help day in, day out. It's just the biggest privilege. The secret to living is giving. And if you're feeling like crap, the thing I would say to you is to stop thinking about your own rubbish.
Oh,
Just go and help someone else. You help someone else and you will feel bloody amazing. And I want to say to you, by the way, Ross, that in spending time with you, and by the way, the most amazing wedding photography ever. Honestly, people think that me and Jess should be on the front of OK magazine, and I just said no. That's Ross with his amazing magic camera. But the point is, it is a two-way process. Look at the friendship we've created, and look at the stuff that we've shared in life, in business, and the community that we work with. I just feel grateful. This has been fun. This has been a great little thing to do with you. I'm grateful for this interaction, for our chat, and if this helps one person, then this was time very well spent.
And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Gavin Damant. Thank you so much to Gavin for his time today. If you want to reach out to Gavin directly, please do so by searching for Pioneering Change on Facebook or by using one of the social links we'll list in the show notes. Gavin's got lots of events coming up, so depending on when you're listening to this, if you want to reach out to him or follow him on his social media, you'll be able to find out more information about that at the time. If anything from this conversation has particularly resonated with you today, I really appreciate your comments and feedback. So please do so on the episode page on the website at rothstein.com. Also, if you think that this content will be suitable or helpful for anyone else that you may know, please do share it with them. The more people that we can kind of share this information with, the better. And also, if you want to subscribe, please do so wherever you subscribe for your podcasts. Until next time, I've been Rothstein. This has been Make Today Count.